All right, welcome to this special episode of BW Businessworld, which is our online version that we have, and we profile the who's who of the startup world. And today we have very special guests, two of them, Mr. Aman Gupta, co-founder and CMO boAt, and Sameer Mehta, co-founder and chief product officer boAt. And let me tell you what boAt is. In the last few years, it has become A for Apple and B for boAt, and it literally happened, right? Am I right?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, how did it begin? What was the start of this partnership? If you can take us briefly through it, how did it happen? How did you align and started this? One of you, okay, whoever.
Okay, so our partnership.
Yes.
So it is, we were in 2015 or some time back. We didn't know each other, but somebody made us meet, and both of us had doubts on partnerships because I had a old company which did not do well. He with a partner. He also had an old bad relationship with a co-founder, but somehow we clicked well, and we thought that there will be mutual synergies. And somebody who knew us well, he was instrumental in getting us together.
Right.
And now, God has been kind. We've grown together. Right. We've had our fights. We always have. Right. But we do whatever is good for the brand. At the end of the day, it's like a baby. When you are raising a child, you also have fights with your partners, right? So here also we keep fighting, but eventually, whatever is right for boAt, we end at that.
Right. Sameer?
So yeah, I mean, like he said, right, some random guy thought it would be very good for us to meet, right? And then we met somewhere in Taj Lands End about 10 years ago. And that was the start of the journey, and we've not looked back ever since.
Right. Wonderful. And while we were doing our, before this, we're meeting, I could see, two different persons, one is very outgoing and one is likes to get granular. I mean, how do you manage conflict, because I've seen a lot of founders, when they are, and there are more than two founders, it's difficult to get along. How do you manage this difference of the way you approach businesses? How do you align while being on this business and trying to grow it together?
So just it's this way, it's as simple as this, right? Like he said, boAt is our baby, right? So we'll do what is best for the baby.
Sameer and I. And he's based out of Bombay. He looks at a lot of things, which are operations, logistics, products, finance. All these report under him, and mostly sales and marketing report under me. So I think there is, and we sit out of Delhi. So I think there is clear division of what both of us do also.
Right.
But conflicts are sure, they happen, but they can be solved.
Part of the business. So tell me, we have seen the trajectory of India's smart wearable devices, and it has grown phenomenally, and it's growing in fact. And boAt is, of course, a major stakeholder in this journey. What is your viewpoint when you look at the trajectory, the way it is going? How do you see it? Where does India stand globally when you look at the tremendous growth that you're witnessing in this market?
So nobody expected Indian brand to be like one of the top brands in the world, right? And boAt is now the second largest wearable brand in the world, which is a proud feeling for us. And we did not start looking at that one day we will be the second largest brand. We just brought good products, did the right marketing, understood the consumer very well, and here we are. If you look at the smartwatch market, which is our next big frontier, that is growing even more. India might become the world's largest smartphone market. Imagine, smartwatch market. So the growth is just something which we also did not expect, and it is growing like crazy. Right. People say that why don't you look outside India? I think for us, India itself is such a big opportunity that we are not able to see outside India for now. So the growth is huge. The potential is amazing.
But you're looking at international expansions as well, right?
So we are, in fact, we're trying out a few markets which actually behave very similar to Indian consumers. So, what we're trying to do is understand, some of these markets which are actually very, very closely mimic the Indian consumer, right? And that's what we're going after. The plans are, to essentially go to Southeast Asia and the Middle East and try over there. And then once we get some success, we got a playbook that we can replicate across the world. So the first step is to try, similar markets as India.
Right. India is a very price sensitive market, and affordability, of course, is one of your key hooks when it comes to, you're growing your market share. It also means that your product lineup has to be constantly innovated.
Absolutely.
So how do you look at innovation amidst all this buzz that you're growing on one side? When do you find time to innovate and take on the competition at the same time?
So we have a world-class R&D team that is stationed within the boAt ecosystem, right? So we acquired a company called Kaha, which is a 80 people strong R&D team. We have a 40 people R&D team only for our audio devices. So there's a continuous innovation engine that's working there, and through which we're able to bring out really good quality products for the consumer. We also understand what the consumer wants, which is very typical. Some of the things are very typical to the Indian customer, right? How do you take those learnings and put it back into your product and keep innovating is something that we're always on top of. And we have a really amazing team that actually keeps bringing out newer innovations and better products each time.
How do you see innovation? How do you define innovation?
I think if you don't innovate, you'll die, right? And especially in our fast-moving technology world, you need to keep upping the game. The consumer is changing,
right?
And if we don't change, we will die. So there is no doubt that we need to keep innovating. And we've seen examples of companies which stopped innovating. They're no longer there anymore. So with that fear in mind, and looking at the looking at the fact that we have to grow both, we have to innovate.
Right. So
it's not an option.
There's no option but to innovate. Your market share stands at 32.1%, which is significant. If I ask you, both of you, what were the drivers that led to this growth and the recent successful launches that you have seen? What are the main factors that have led to this?
I think it's just simple: consumer and the product. We understand the consumer very well, and we know what he wants. The Indian consumer is a very discerning, very different, very value-driven consumer. It's not price, because even the cheapest car in the world didn't sell. So the Indian consumer is a very, he needs his aspiration. He wants those. He needs it at the right price. We know that consumer very well, and it's an evolving consumer, as I said. The products are very good. The products we don't. We are not a fly-by-night operator. We need products which are good, which are tuned to the Indian audience, which are sturdy, which are durable. So, it's a magical combination of the right product for the right consumer.
Right. When we look at the brand that people have built, from ground up, like you have built, people often see the final end product, of course, and they love the stories of success. But of course, there is a bigger story behind it. The struggle and the challenges that you've faced. So now when you look back, I want to start with you and then to you. What comes to your mind? I mean, is it easy, now when you travel, you're mobbed everywhere. Is it easy to stay grounded? And, when you look back, what does it look like?
So there are 2-3 questions which you've asked me in this one question. First is about the challenges when, in the company. Challenges were there when we were starting out. Challenges were there when we were growing. Challenges are still there as where we are. So the type of challenges keep changing, but challenges will remain, right? If you talk about me as a person, to stay grounded, I have people around me who keep me grounded. And as a personality, you cannot change me. So as a personality, I like to hustle hard. But I think staying humble is one of one of the cores which I believe in, and that comes from, I guess, the middle class upbringing which I have. And also, if you get too attached to this artificial world, then you will soon, reality will strike somewhere or the other. So I think that with that consciousness is what I believe I can always stay humble and grounded. And I have people around me. I have my wife, I have my family, I have my friends, I have Sameer. I have people who care about me to tell me if I'm going wrong somewhere. So I think, और एक ना वो पुरानी लाइन है कि घमंड ना रावण का भी नहीं टिका. So that is what I believe in, कि boss, don't ever be. There is a thin line between attitude and arrogance, and I hope I never cross that.
Wonderful. Sameer, what comes to your mind when you look back at this journey?
So journey's been fantastic, right? I mean, of course, there are struggles and there are still struggles, right? I mean, it's not going to get over. You know, till the time you're alive, there's going to be some struggle or the other. The worst ones that I can think about is lack of, working capital. So, there was a point in time when me and Aman had signed about 100 crores of personal guarantees just to make the business run. And that is the confidence we had in the business and in ourselves that, we would make it. So, that was one of the key challenges, at least from people who come from middle class backgrounds, to sign up for something like this. It's kind of hard. In terms of looking back at success, I don't think we even talk about our success as often, right? Because success can get to your head at some point. And that's where, your downfall kind of starts. So as successful as the world thinks we are, probably we are, but we don't end up talking about it because we want to keep, we're a defect focused company, right? Whatever is not working, we'll focus on that rather than looking at the positive sides, because what is done, but there's a lot more to be done. So that's the mindset that, we go in with every day when we walk into office. It's that mindset that how do we make ourselves better?
Right. When you start your company to a point when you have so many employees, you have the biggest market share in this, the style of leadership also evolves,
Yeah.
As a leader, what have you learned and how do you maintain and, kind of evolve from one stage to another? What has changed in your leadership style, if I may ask you?
Yeah, I would say that, earlier we were, when we were in Delhi, we were a team of, first year we had like 5-7 people. Now in Delhi we have 250 people. In Bombay itself also we've got more than 200 now. And I think we, as leaders, you need to keep, earlier I used to know everybody who was reporting into me, right? And I used to know everybody in the team. But now I know only people who are reporting into me or maybe one down under. But they themselves are becoming leaders of like 20 people, and I can't now individually know everybody in the company as I used to know earlier, right? So there is a style of leading through leaders. And now we are cultivating leaders across the company who can now lead the next set of leaders who are emerging. And I think it's all about constant learning and constantly evolving yourself. I am a lifelong learner. I learn from people around me. I learn from, I read, I talk to a lot of founders who are now at that scale. We've got people, in the Warburg team. They have run companies, are investors. They have run bigger companies. So we learn from people who've run bigger companies to learn on what we should do and what we should avoid doing. So I think life is, and people like me and Sameer, we are constant and, we are lifelong learners. If we think we know it all, we'll start feeling like this is how it's supposed to be done, right? And maybe we do mistakes there, but we can also learn from others' mistakes, right? I think for us, it's all about lifelong learning.
So, one of the things that has changed is, yes, earlier we were hands-on everything. We knew everything that happened in the company because we're a very small team, right? Back in 2020, I think we were a 40 people team. And now we've grown to, I think, 400 plus somewhere there, right? So again, like I said, right, you got to empower your team to, do the right things, take the right decisions. But at the same time, we've become a little more data oriented as a company also, right? So, data speaks a certain language, right? And that's very hard to hide. So I think it's a combination of empowering people, but at the same time, having a data back approach that kind of works for us. One other thing that we've done right is, we don't have a knocking policy. Of course, we would have wanted, I'm, like you said, right, I'm an introvert, so I like my space. But I would have also liked that, we had a complete open office culture, right, where there were no cabins. But unfortunately, that's not the case. But there's a no knocking policy. Anybody can just come in anytime. So that, that feeling of not having barriers is something that we've created. So any of our team members can actually approach us at any point of time with any problems that they have. And I think that's a culture that we want to imbibe and, kind of continue having that in the company.
Right. If you look, Aman, in today's times, startups are relatively taking more time to mature.
Yeah.
Right? And get on to a stable growth. What do you advise, what is your advice for early stage founders to scale and establish a long-term sustainable brand?
I think first is, I would say, as I said before, stay grounded and also look at ROI very closely. a lot of times, and I think that is a reality which is sinking in with startups now. Earlier they were all chasing growth without looking at how profitability can happen. And I think has to be a balance between growth and profitability. The path to profitability is very critical, and gone are those days when people would just buy market shares. I don't think that is possible anymore. If you look at how all the new age companies have been performing in the public markets, they are all getting hammered down because the consumer, जैसे वो कहते हैं ना, public सब जानती है, and the public there knows exactly how to look at companies and sustainability and sustainable growth. Probably is the right word, sustainable growth. So I think for early age founders also, I would say don't get into the mad rat race of valuation. Build a strong, fundamentally strong, sustainable company. Keep your head down, work hard, hustle hard, but stay humble.
Right. So my thing is very, I have like 3 basic things that I follow, right? Persevere, right? You got to persevere, you got to keep persisting so that, you get through it, because there are some times that, you want to give up, right? And it's a part of every entrepreneur's journey that, it gets so hard at some point that you want to give up. But I think perseverance and planning, these are the 2 things that I personally believe in, that, will take a company, it'll make it more sustainable. Scalability and sustainability also can go hand in hand, as long as you're planned well and, you're able to apply yourself all the time, right, for the bigger outcome. I think these are the 2 things that I would kind of follow when, I would give an advice to any new age founder.
You raised funding last year, big ticket funding round. What is the strategy to utilize the capital?
So currently, that we've primarily been an audio company, right, for so many years. Now we're building our second core, which is wearables, right? And on the wearables, we are just at the very start of that journey, right? If you look at the Indian consumer, he's using it more as a lifestyle watch. But that'll change, right? It's going to be more a health and wellness device, and that's why we made the right investments to make sure that we have the right product out there, which is essentially you own the entire stack, where you're able to give out newer features, build the ecosystem for the consumer, rather than just looking at a smartwatch as a heart rate monitor and a watch face, right? So that's what we want to build over a period of time. That's where the consumer will shift to, right? Because when it's new, the smartwatch as a category is very new to the consumers right now. So over a period of time, they'll understand the good sides of having a smartwatch, right? How it can make you a little more active, make your wellness better, and that's the journey that we want to take the consumer on, and that's the second core that we are building, and that's where the money is going to be deployed.
Right. Aman, you deferred the plan of going public, given the volatile stock market. So what's the plan ahead, if you could tell us?
Karenge, abhi, it's just too recent. We've just raised funding and taken the DRHP out. Abhi, so we are another few, probably 1 or 2 years, when the markets will be better, volatility will be low, and we are also building our wearable business very well now, and there will be growth levers on all sides. So there is no hurry. We don't need to. There was no need to do an IPO, because it's not that we need those funds. So we are fine without an IPO also for next 2 years, and whenever the business is ready, whenever the markets are ready, we'll jump back in and go for the IPO.
Right. What's your vision of creating a large-scale impact? What I mean is, of course, you're growing, you have funding available. So how do you send a message across that you are ready for that large-scale impact next level? I mean,
question is
what are you doing to create the next big, say, company out of India globally? What moves? What are the big tailwinds that are driving you towards that?
अगर सब बता देंगे तो सब competition भी सुन लेगा ना आपका interview. So there are, but if I tell you in nutshell, continuous evolving products, continuous investment in the R&D and looking at the future technology now is what we are doing now.
Right. So tell me, there was this recent, campaign which talked about like Make in India. You said, boAt is an example of Make in India. First of all, when people question it, how would you like to answer them?
That's a good question, but because people still question whatever we do. It's एक वो line नहीं है, कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना. तो जब हम start भी कर रहे थे ना, तब people used to say कि यार ये लोग क्या कर पाएंगे, how will they disrupt a category which is so commoditized. People used to talk like that, and there were examples of some old mobile companies in India which didn't do well. So people started comparing us to that, and they thought that we will not be able to do anything in this category. And they were global brands. We still did it. Then people said that times changed, and earlier there was India was not able to make anything, but now with government support, India is now making a lot of products in India, and there is a lot of support which the government is also giving towards us. So they said that nobody can make in India, but we proved those also wrong by, first we had a brand which was made in India, but then we had products which were made in India. And now, there is a lot of, if you look at ancillary industries around what we are making, which are developing in India. If you look at, the government efforts in PCB manufacturing is starting to take place now. Tata is investing a lot in, Foxconn is also investing a lot in making the right chipset in India. All that is also getting developed. We are not chipset manufacturers, so we will have to buy chipsets from wherever they are available. Right. But slowly, all that is also evolving in India. So, India, we never ourselves thought that we will be able to make so much. We made 1 crore units in this 1 year in India. And this is something which we are very proud of. And 80 to 85% of our watches now are made in India. Imagine, which nobody thought would happen. And it's just, somebody I believe in, Jeff Bezos, he says it's still day one, and which is true for us. What do you think?
So essentially, right, one side is the Make in India piece, right, where you're manufacturing in India. We also should talk about engineering in India, right? Products that are engineered here, right? It's not about made. Right, making is one part of the whole ecosystem where you need tons of other companies to come in to kind of evolve it over a period of time. Within a year, what we managed to do is, according to us, is brilliant, because if you talk about 80-85% of your manufacturing moving into a country where we've never done this, right? Not that we've also had a lot of experience doing it, which I feel is like a great achievement for us. Our next step is to have Indian engineered products. So if you look at most of our watches are engineered in India. The entire software, the entire, hardware is actually, everything is engineered in India. And that's the journey that we want to talk about, right? It's not about making in India, it's also about engineering it in India.
I have two more questions. One is, you mentioned about how government is also, you're working closely. Could you tell us more about it, the partnerships that are there,
So the government is also encouraging the ecosystem play. Earlier it was very difficult to manage their labor laws, there were factory disruptions, India was not a manufacturing base. But look at how Make in India is becoming a positive thing, right? And that is all because of the government overall effort in helping companies like us, we're a very small company, right? And companies like us also make in India. So I think there is the overarching support on all sides. It's not just one side; it is all sides of the government which is encouraging Make in India. So if you look at the duty PLI scheme, which is also one of those schemes which helps. There is a duty drawback scheme. There are so many schemes which the government has to help companies like us. So, I think, as I remember, Modi ji once said that, India is not like a flight which can turn like this and then this. India is like a train which will move like this. And to add to that, what we say is that Rome was not built in a day. So, India will not make in a day, but baby steps, we're getting there.
Right. My final question is, we talk about, of course, startups had a phase when, There was funding available, there were new ideas, but I think current state is very different. I mean, we've spoken to investors, they're also having a different opinion of startups. In your view, when you look at the current ecosystem, startup ecosystem, what comes to your mind? Does anything ail it? Can it become better than what it is?
I think the time of free money is over. The time of unprofitable, unsustainable companies is over. But if you are a good company, the funding is still available. People was talking about funding winter. We raised 500 crores 2 months back. So if they are good companies, companies are still raising. But free lunch is no longer available.
So I think, yeah, like he said, right, being a sustainable company, a growth company, right, as long as you're doing everything right by your business, right, you will turn profitable. So though there were these times where, there's so much excess capital in the system that everybody was getting funded. But now that has changed. But as long as all of your, key parameters of the company are all on spot, I think money is available. People are ready to put money behind good companies, and that's what we believe that we've done. So, अगर company अच्छी है, सब ठीक कर रहे हो, founders अच्छे हैं, तो पैसा तो मिलेगा.
Yeah.
I have to ask you this final question. People watching us, people watch you, they follow you on Insta, they love hearing from you. What is your advice to people who are now getting into startups, who have an idea?
Yeah.
What would you like to tell them?
I think I would say start up soon. And if India is India mein startup culture has just started. And if you look at few years back, starting up was considered bad. But if you look at now, starting up is becoming good. And what you can learn from starting up, nothing else can teach you. There will be a lot of ups and downs you'll have. But there is no better time to launch your startup than now.
So I'm going to use one of his lines. It says, better try than cry. So try kar lo, koshish karo, give it your best, and you'll get there.
Yeah. Right. Thank you so much, Aman and Sameer, for taking out time and talking to us.
Thank you. I felt you were kind enough to us. You didn't ask us very critical questions, but thank you so much for calling us here.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It was a nice interview.